All right, welcome to week 9 here. This is a SQL lesson here. We're learning to create tables and insert data into SQL. I know we've kind of gone over this before a couple times in class, but this is going to be the formal one. Let's go ahead. Let's hop over to our slide deck. And here we go. SQL, create tables, insert data. There's a term you're going to hear a lot when it comes to databases, and it's called CRUD. And CRUD stands for create, read, update, delete. So we create, this would be today's lesson. Read, we've done that. We select statements. Update, we're going to do next week. Updating, that means like updating the data, changing it, and then deleting. We're going to do that in today's lessons as well. So we're going to cover all the aspects of CRUD. Next week we'll do update, but that's what we're looking at right now. So we've already gone over read. So all that lessons we've done with the select statements, where joins and everything, that's all under read. So in creating a table, it's relatively simple here in Python. SQL. The syntax is create, give it a table name as, and then you're going to put up parentheses. And for each column you want, you're going to give it a column name and the data type and separate that by a comma. And here's some common data types. Obviously, these are not all the ones out there. I mean, there's so many, but these are the ones you'll see most commonly, I think. In varchar is a variable string. It's and you put the X, and that tells you how many characters you can have. Like 255 is kind of a standard cutoff. If you need a lot more, you can put max in there. That'll come out. The reason, and you'll also see varchar as something without the N. That's used in a lot of systems. Now, the difference between varchar and nvarchar is that nvarchar allows us to handle Unicode data or UFT8, which is it expands to a larger selection of characters and stuff outside of just the standard English keyboard. So if you're looking to get some characters you'll find like in foreign languages and stuff in varchar. I just really honestly, when it comes to SQL Server, nvarchar is kind of a default I use because it handles everything. Integer or int is an integer. That's a number with no decimal points. And we have decimal here. And decimal has two values you put inside the parentheses. X for the size of the number. So that's how many, if there's going to be, if you're going to do, 4 digits, wherever it is. And then Y is the number of places after the decimal point. So those are the two numbers you're going to put in there. So if you wanted it to be like 100 dot with 100.25, you would make this number 5. So you need 5 total spaces for the numbers, and then Y are the spaces after the decimal. Bool or Boolean, that's your true and false, ones or zeros. That's what that is. A date data type uses date format is YYY, year, month, day. If set to US settings. Date time, that gives us just not only the date, but it also gives us a timestamp. And then identity. Identity is an auto-incrementing number. It's like auto number and access, with X being the starting point and Y being the step. So identity of 1 starts at 1 and it counts by 1. So anyways, those are some common data types. So let's go ahead, let's create our first table, and we're going to create a table called student info. So let me readjust the view here so you get a better view of what's going on. All right, so we're going to create a table here, student info. So what I've created here, I've got create table, student info, and I got parentheses, and I'm saying student ID, and notice I put here primary key. This is how I identify the primary key of my table. You just type it in right there. Okay, so that's my primary key. Now remember, a primary key cannot have any nulls, and it cannot, and no duplicates either. You can't have any duplicates in your primary key column. All right. So the next one is student name, and I put it in varchar 50 for 50 characters. We're just going to use first names anyway. And then birth date, and I close it out with parentheses. Now I just go ahead and I select this and I run. And if you'll look over here, if I now go and refresh my tables, oops, sorry, let me refresh my actual tables, not my graph tables. And you're going to see, there it is, student info, and my columns are in there. You'll see them. And you'll see the key right here for my primary key. All right, let's go back to our slide deck now and readjust the view. All right, so we just did that. We did primary key now. So there's the primary key, and you can define primary key simply by putting the words. Again, primary key columns, if I could spell correctly, that would help, cannot contain duplicates or nulls. All right, so now we have the identity column. What if we wanted to use an auto incrementing as our primary key, which is a great idea. A lot of places, a lot of times you do it. And it avoids duplicates because it auto increments for you. You're going to put in there identity. Now notice this is a weird thing. We actually have two data types here. I have identity with my information, and I have an int, which is my integer, because I'm letting you know I'm working with an integer. Integer is the easiest way to work with an identity column. So that's what we're going to put here in the code here when I create it. So again, it's create table. Now we're just going to call this one student info v1, so we'll have more than one table. And it's an integer and identity. So remember, with the identity, this is the only column you have to put in a data type plus the identity. It's only one, and then I put the primary key there. Varchar 50. The rest of them you don't need. Obviously, you can't even put two different data types there. It would screw it up. So this is the only case. The identity, you need to tell it what it is, and I'm just using integer to make life easy. And we'll create this, and we'll run it, execute, and then if I go over here and I refresh, you're going to see my student info. And notice it just says PK integer, not no. You won't know this. You won't see it from the outside. Where you'll run into it is when you try to write over top it's an identity and it'll screw you up. And we'll show that when we're going into adding data to the system. So let's go ahead back to our slide deck now. Created two tables, one with a regular primary key, one with an auto incrementing primary key. Now we can go and you can alter tables. After you've created a table, if you want to add a column you forgot to add, all you gotta do is use the alter command. So it's alter tables student info. And it says add. And notice I don't use the word column. I just write the name of the column, GPA, and then I'm gonna give it a decimal. Okay. And then you can use alter command to alter the existing columns. And again, I should really learn how to spell columns here. All right. So here I'm adding a new column that didn't exist. Here I'm altering an existing column, okay? Keep that in mind. So this one says alter table student info, then it says alter column GPA. And you do need to have the first line because it has to know what table you're talking about. So we can go ahead in here and got student info. Let's look at it real quick here. Let me get back to the regular view. Student info. I've got the three columns right here. Okay, so I'm going to say alter table. And now if I go ahead and I refresh this table and I look at the columns, now I have a GPA column. Okay, now if I go here, notice the GPA, it's a decimal 3.2. If I go here and I change it to invarchar 4, now when I go through here and I refresh again and look, it'll now say GPA is an invarchar 4. Okay, back over to our slide deck and see what's next here. I know we're kind of moving quickly, but this is the nature of college, so we do move quickly. We're going to doing some insert some data, okay? So we can use the insert command to insert data into tables. Here is the syntax. Insert into the name of the table, and then values. And in parentheses, separated by commas, you're going to have all the values you're going to put in the table. So these are all the columns. And if you remember, I've got up here, we've got student ID, student name, birth date, GPA. So if we go back and look, we have student ID. Oh, sorry. We didn't see that. Sorry about that. Let me fix the code, but here we go. So again, student ID, student name, birth date, GPA. Okay. Now we go back over to here and we look and student ID, student name, birthday, GPA. So these all four. Now what happens if I don't want, if I only want to add certain columns? I only have data for certain columns. I don't have a birth date for Scooby here. At that point, I could just say from the insert, I could add only the column names I'm working with. So let's go ahead and look at this in the database and see how it works. Okay, so if we go here and I insert into student info these, now I should have 2 records in this. When I go look at it, here it says, and it's got all 4, and you can see they match up. Now with this one, I don't have a birthday for Scooby. You know, probably might have found as a stray. Dogs can be that way. So we have student name, student, just GPA. That's what I put here. So I've only putting in 3 of the data points in this one. So when we go back and look now, what happens is we get a null in the birthday because I didn't give it a value. And it's okay. That's okay. The place you can't have a null, student ID, I would not be able to do that to the student ID. That would fail if I tried that because it would give me an error because you cannot have a null in the student ID. Okay, so this brings us into the interesting aspect of dealing with our auto incrementer. Okay, remember we put the auto incrementing column in the student info.v, so this one up here. When we made this one, we gave it an identity column, auto incrementing. Okay, so we have 3 columns: student ID, student name, birthday. You'll notice now when I do the insert here, I have to make sure I put my columns in because I cannot insert a value into the identity. It has the value itself. So we're going to go ahead and we're going to put this, we're going to run this in SQL, and I'll show you how this works. Okay. So from here, I got the insert into student info v2, student name and birthday. I left the student ID off because I don't want to put a value in it because it's an auto incrementer. So I just put it in the name and the birthday, name and the birthday. I run this, and then when I go to select and look, it already added them to me. Okay. If I were to add more columns each time, it would just, the next one would be 3, 4, 5. It would just keep adding up for me. I don't have to do it, but I can't tell it what the number is. It has to auto increment itself. So when you are using an identity column, make sure you do not try to insert into that particular column. All right, now let's go ahead and work on our foreign key. Okay, so first let's make a table that's related to our student info v table, which we have this table here. So notice there's the student ID, that's the primary key, that's what we're going to go after. So I'm going to create a grades table, and note that student ID is going to be the foreign key because it's related to the stud ID. Okay, so I just create that table. I'll just do that really fast, just to show you up here. Where'd it go? Create table grades, there it is. Let me just create that one and we'll go. They're not related yet, and we can tell they're not related yet by doing this. If I go ahead and creating, you can go up here, right click database diagrams, then pick the tables you want. It'll create diagrams for you. And you'll see there's no connection here. There's no relation, even though student ID and student ID, these can be related. What we need to do is we need to alter it. Okay, so we're going to go back to the alter. Again, this is, we've used alter already to change columns. We're going to alter the table grades. Okay, we want to alter the table that holds the foreign key. That's the one that do. So you alter table with foreign key. Okay, so we're going to add a foreign key, and it's going to be student ID. It's going to reference our student V1 table here, this one over here, and it's going to reference the student ID, stud ID. Notice these IDs don't, these column names don't have to have the same name. They can still work. So I run this, and I don't know, it's probably not going to fix it now. I might have to, you know, let me go ahead and kill this now. No, I don't want to save it. And just go back, and I'll do a database diagram again, and I will bring in student info, and I'm going to bring in grades now. Okay, close. Now you see I've got a relationship. And it says, if you can read it, it says relationship student between student info and grades. So they are related by the student ID and this student ID here. So that's how we set up our alter. Okay. Let's check out our slide deck again. Almost there. Okay, so that's what we did. We used the alter command to create the. You can technically kind of do it while you're building the tables. I prefer always do this later. I like to build the tables first and then run the alter command afterwards. Logically, I just find it easier. But remember, it's just alter the table, and you're always altering the table with the foreign key. Add foreign key pseudo that is going to reference the table you want to reference to. So this will be the primary key of another table. All right, so now we're going to go over the drop command. The drop command is used to delete database objects like tables. We wanted to get rid of a database object. Go back in here, and I drop student info. Now, if I go here and I refresh my tables now, student info is gone. It's been deleted, no longer there. Okay, just for step, I'm going to recreate it just because of the next steps we have to do. Let me run this real fast. And this. Okay, so let's go back over to the slide deck. And we're going to look at now where drop gets rid of actual objects. So the entire object's gone, data and all. There was no longer a student info. If you just want to get rid of data, then we have delete and we have truncate. These are two different objects. Truncate will get rid of all the data, all records from the table. So if I go back in here and let's just take a look at what's in, select star from the student info. There we go, I got 3 columns. And if I now say truncate table stud info, and now I go to run, all the records are gone. Let me repopulate our table real fast. So we now have information back. And now we're going to do the next one. Now we're going to try delete. Now we don't say delete table, we say delete from. Now if I run this by itself, it will delete all 3 records. It'll be just like the truncate. But the good thing about delete, what it allows me to do is I can put where clauses. I can delete where birthday is null. Okay? So this allows me to more targeted deletion. So whoops, what I hit. There we go. Execute. All right. So now when I look, my other 2 records are still there. So again, we have drop. That's objects. Truncate. All records gone. Delete. Delete records with filtering with a where clause as an option. So this gives you, delete gives you the where clause. So it's a little bit better than just truncate. God, if I could spell. All right, cool. So there we go. That's kind of the quick and dirty of create, alter, insert, and we learned about identities and stuff like that. And this will be part of your lab we're going to go over. And remember, this is all part of the CRUD thing. We're going to cover the rest of CRUD next week.